Hello everyone, this is my first video for my new channel. I'm mainly going to focus on critiquing and correcting the lies being peddled by Prager U or Prager University. So my first video I'm going to critique is titled "An Arab Muslim in the Israeli Army." So let's see what they say.
I am an Arab. I am a Muslim. And I love my country. In fact, I'm prepared to die for it. Which is why I serve in its army. I don't have to do this. I want to do this. Because my country is a special place. Unlike another. Free, diverse, vibrant. Yet other countries not so free, not so diverse, call for my country's complete destruction.
Alright, let's just correct this fallacy right here. Israel or the right-wing leaders of that country love to refer to themselves as the Jewish state. In fact, you have leading Israeli politicians and current cabinet members of the current right-wing, or rather far-right government over there, that, number one, deny the existence of Palestinians, and number two, call for their outright destruction. But let's continue.
The moment my country lets its guard down, it will be destroyed. My country is Israel.
This is another lie. Israel is by far has the most powerful armed military in the region, at the least. Okay, never mind in the whole world. They can go toe to toe with any Arab army in that region, and most likely they will win. And that's mainly thanks to the over $38 billion in American military aid that country, Israel, receives. They by far receive the most foreign assistance out of any other nation on the planet, the second being Egypt. But Egypt doesn't come nowhere near the amount of aid that Israel gets. So I'm not sure who in this day and age is out to destroy Israel.
I grew up and still live in a small village named after my family's Bedouin Arab tribe. Our roots in this land run deep. In 1948, when Arab armies invaded the new state of Israel, my family thought of leaving our village. Some of them did. But when the Jewish leaders heard that, they implored us to remain. This is our country. For both Arabs and Jews, they say.
This is wrong. During that conflict in 1948 between the Arabs and the Jews, there were a number of massacres that were committed by Israeli forces. The biggest one and the most well-known case is the massacre at Deir Yassin. And at that massacre, hundreds, if not thousands, of civilians were butchered by the Israelis. And the Israelis did this on purpose as a tactic of terror. And they wanted to terrorize the local civilians into fleeing what was then Palestine. And once these civilians fled, and Israel later ended up prevailing in that conflict, they refused to let these civilians back into their homes. Again, this is just one of many lies being peddled by Prager U.
Stay and we will work together to build it. My family stayed, my parents were born here, made their lives here, started their own family here in Israel. In 2002, I was a teenager. It was a violent time. Palestinian suicide bombers were blowing up Israeli civilians, a danger to Arabs and Jews alike. Israeli troops entered the West Bank to stop them at their source. As a result, many Palestinians were killed. I was torn. Whose side was I on? Israelis or the Palestinians? Is it possible to be an Arab and an Israeli? The question became even more difficult when I saw men from my own village wearing the uniform of the Israeli army. Only Jews are required to serve in the military. No one forced these Arab men to join. They chose it. Why? I asked them. Our home is here in Israel, they say. Our home is under attack. Our neighbors in this home are Jews. They are being attacked. We fight together.
This is wrong. Number one, what he's referring to, this incident of violence in 2002, was the Palestinian Intifada. Excuse me. In that, the Israelis responded brutally, and thousands upon thousands of civilians who had nothing to do with the militants or the suicide bombers were butchered by Israeli forces. Nobody, it's like, I suppose it's fine that he decided to fight for an army that has a horrendous human rights record, but this notion that he was under threat, it's just flatly false.
Still, I struggled. I went to high school in Nazareth. There, unlike the village where I grew up, most of the Arab students identified as Palestinian even though they are citizens of Israel.
Well, first of all, again, this is he says that with no context whatsoever. Everybody and their grandmother knows that Israeli Arabs in Israel are treated as second-class citizens. Never mind the fact that many of them were dispossessed and massacred and terrorized by the Israelis in 1948 and in 1967. So in light of that, just put yourself in the shoes of an Arab living there. You're being discriminated against, you're being treated as a second-class citizen, you're constantly hearing anti-Arab propaganda by right-wing politicians in that country. You yourself wouldn't be that loyal to a state if that's how that state felt about you.
Some of the students, my friends, hated Israel. They couldn't understand me. You're a Palestinian, they say, so you must hate Israel. When I said that I didn't, that we had far more freedom and opportunity than Arabs anywhere in the Middle East, they called me a traitor.
Well, this is somewhat true, that Israeli Arabs probably, I myself am not that sure of this, but Israeli Arabs do enjoy a slightly higher quality of life compared to their neighbors. However, just because you have a citizenship of some place, that doesn't really mean anything. Mind you, that Israel refers to itself as a Jewish state, and the concept, or the notion of being Jewish, is both an ethnic identity as well as a religious identity. So if you're an Arab Muslim, where do you fit in that equation?
After high school, I went to study electrical engineering at Knir, a leading Israeli university. During my first semester, heavy rocket fire from Gaza forced Israel to launch a counterattack. Not long after the war began, I witnessed a group of Arab Israeli students expressing their solidarity with Hamas.
This is a lie. After Israel pulled out of Gaza, they proceeded to turn the entire strip into an open-air prison. You had leading Israeli military generals commenting and saying things like, "Oh, we're gonna put the people of Gaza on a diet," and they were literally counting the calories of the food that was allowed in. So they didn't necessarily starve the people over there to death, but they just made sure that they were starving, but had just enough food that they were kept alive. Israel, they didn't allow any building materials or really any materials to sustain a decent level of life in that area. That's why the Gaza, or rather the first Gaza conflict that he's referring to?